Police Minister General Bheki Cele is expected to address a stakeholder summit hosted by the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The minister's invitation to the event follows recent attacks and acts of criminality and violence in parts of Gauteng, coupled by unrest in the road freight and logistics sector. The summit will be attended by executives of the South African companies that have operations in the African continent. Chriselda Lewis is at the summit and we cross to her live right now. Chriselda, what can you tell us about what's happening this morning?
Well, Desiree, Police Minister Bheki Cele is currently in a closed session with executives of the road freight industry. Of course, as you indicated in your intro, this follows, of course, wide-scale violence relating to the truck drivers. We saw over the past couple of weeks a number of trucks that have been torched, causing concern in that particular industry. And some of the concerns of the truck drivers and those who are on strike, you would know in part is due to what they say is executives of these truck companies hiring foreign nationals over South Africans who they say are capable of doing the job. So while all of that has been taking place, Desiree, on the sidelines of that, we'll also ask the police minister about the renewed violence that you just spoke about. Several people arrested in the Johannesburg CBD overnight. Some of the foreign-owned shops have also been torched overnight, in particular in Malvern here in Johannesburg. So we'll take the opportunity to ask the minister about that. You'll also recall, Desiree, that there was due to be an imbizo that was to be held with the Izinduna as well as the hostel dwellers and some of the other interested parties relating to the acts of criminality and violence and looting that we've seen in the Johannesburg CBD. So that imbizo did not take place on Sunday. When we asked the ministry why it didn't take place, they said that there was an agreement between the Izinduna and the police minister that more consultations needed to take place before the imbizo itself will be held. But the scenes that we saw yesterday, we saw the former IFP leader there, Mangsutu Buthelezi, who had addressed some of the hostel dwellers together with Izinduna, and he was not allowed to finish his speech. Most of the hostel dwellers who had gone to that meeting said they were wanting government to address their concerns, and they were expecting that the imbizo itself would take place. So we'll take the opportunity while the minister meets with the executives of the road freight industry to address issues pertaining to the ongoing strike that we saw in the truck industry. We'll also take the opportunity to ask him about what is the way forward now with this renewed violence that we have seen in the Johannesburg CBD. When will this imbizo itself take place? Because there seems to be a lot of discontent between and disagreement between Izinduna themselves, those who represent or are speaking on behalf of the hostel dwellers, and the hostel dwellers themselves who did not want to be addressed by the former IFP leader Buthelezi yesterday. So we'll get some reaction regarding that and whether he plans to meet with some of the hostel dwellers or Izinduna. Recall that yesterday some of those who took the podium where the former IFP leader was speaking had said that they were giving the police minister 24 hours to address them and come up with concerns. So we'll ask him about that and what he plans to do in the next couple of hours to ensure that the resurgence of violence that we have seen is stopped.
In terms of the conversations themselves, what are the executives saying about their feeling in terms of hiring people with legitimate paperwork that shows they have a right to be in South Africa, as opposed to just grabbing people who they imagine are capable?
Desiree, what's expected to happen here is that just here behind me, this is where the closed door session is taking place at this moment, where Minister Bheki Cele is meeting with those executives. So after they are done with that closed session, there will be a media briefing where we will get a sense of what the concerns are from the freight industry, as well as what way forward the police minister will be putting forward. And then again, Desiree, while we get some of of the solutions to that particular strike and the concerns in that particular sector, that's when we'll also take the opportunity to ask him about some of the resurgence of violence that we've seen overnight in the Johannesburg CBD. So for now, Desiree, we're waiting for that meeting to finish, and then we will get a briefing from Minister Bheki Cele together with the executives of that particular industry, who will brief us on what the way forward is. And of course, we'll take that opportunity to get some solutions from him, or what his plans are going forward pertaining to the other strike as well that's been taking place, the resurgence of violence, in the Johannesburg CBD.
Chriselda, personally, from your vantage point as a journalist that has been covering all these events, is this yet another effort at trying to find a resolution to what's happening in the country at the moment?
Well, absolutely, Desiree. If we look back to last week, you would recall I was at the Jeppe police station where Police Minister Bheki Cele had gone there to meet with Izinduna, who basically represent the hostel dwellers in Johannesburg. And that seemed to have come to a sense that they would talk and try and find a resolution and then address the hostel dwellers themselves. And there seemed to have been, when we spoke to the chairperson of Izinduna in Johannesburg, Ubaba Mhlongo, he had said that they would wait for that summit, which was scheduled to take place yesterday here in Johannesburg. But then during the course of the week, we heard that it had been postponed. When I asked for reasons for the postponement, we were told that more consultation needed to happen before that Imbizo itself had sat. So there has been talks to try and find a resolution to the violence and the looting that is taking place. But there seems to be a break in communication somewhere. Because after Minister Bheki Cele had gone to meet with some of the hostel dwellers in Jeppe's town last week, he had been met with a hostile reception by those hostel dwellers. So then there seems to be some kind of miscommunication between Izinduna and those that they represent at the hostels themselves, who also yesterday, you would recall, that was live on the SABC News channel, where they refused to be addressed by the former IFP leader and said they want more answers to some of their concerns. And immediately after that meeting had adjourned, that's when we saw the resurgence of violence in the Johannesburg CBD, with those shops being torched overnight in Malvern here in Johannesburg. And I think a solution really needs to be found at this point to what's going to happen to try and curb the violence, because most of those who are involved in it are saying they're going to continue until government comes with some solutions pertaining to their concerns. Of course, those concerns, accusations of foreign nationals opening shops in the Johannesburg CBD, saying they're not given access to opportunities, accusations of foreign nationals taking their jobs. So how that's going to be addressed, there needs to be a multi-pronged or multifaceted approach to this, because it's going to include a number of departments, accusations of RDP houses being given to foreign nationals. So this will need to include the Department of Human Settlements, the police, state security, how they plan to deal with some of the violence that keeps on erupting in different parts of Johannesburg. So I think the police minister will have his hands full trying to address the executives here pertaining to the road freight industry, and then also in the next 24 hours, well, that's according to those who were being addressed by the former IFP leader yesterday. They said they're giving the police minister, or government rather, 24 hours to address their concerns. So how that's going to happen, we'll certainly hear from the police minister once he's done with this meeting with these executives, whether he plans to schedule a meeting in the next couple of hours with Izinduna or hostel dwellers, or if that Imbizo will be called as soon as possible. That's certainly some of the questions that we will be posing to him in the next couple of moments once he is done with this meeting with executives of the road freight industry.
African Chamber of Commerce and Industry Stakeholder Summit in Randburg, and we'll come back to you as soon as that meeting is wrapped up and you can give us the outcomes. Thank you so much for that update. Now,